I'm gonna go ahead with the black and white project assignment, and this is kind of an extended version of creating a black and white, and there's several ways to do that. As I said, this allows me to pick out some luminosity in my photo as far as the light and the shadows. So first thing I'm going to do is go grab my crop tool, which is the third one down on the left, and I'm just going to get rid of those branches right there. And I'm going to go to the top, finish my crop by hitting that check mark, and I'm going to start my black and white process. I'm going to be using a couple tools in this tutorial. I'll be using the gradient tool, which is G on your keyboard if you want to use that shortcut. I will also be using the selection tool, which is V on your keyboard. Alright, let's get going. I'm going to switch to my selection tool. I'm going to go down to the adjustment layer, or the half moon as I like to call it, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to add a hue and saturation layer. You'll see that the properties panel opens up hue, saturation, and lightness. I can change the lightness if I need to on my photo. I think this one's fine. Yours might need a little bit of lighting and darkening to it. But the first thing I'm going to do after that, if I need to do that, is just drag the saturation button all the way to the left. And I made it black and white, but I want to get this more dynamic. I want to have more, when I say dynamic, I'm referring to the contrast between the light of darkness or shadows and lightness. So I'm going to add another hue adjustment layer by going down to the adjustment layer icon, left clicking, and then going up and grabbing another hue and saturation. I'm going to drag this below my first layer just by left clicking and dragging it until I see that blue line. And now I'm going to go up to right here to the blend mode dial, and I'm going to right click on that lever, or sorry, left click on that lever, and go down all the way to the bottom to luminosity. Click that. You'll see that if I turn off my top layer and I go back to the color and I move my hue around, it just is affecting that luminosity of the lighting. Right? It's not affecting the color anymore, which it would if I had this layer, just this layer on there without having this cover layer over it with the blend mode and luminosity. So clicking on that luminosity really just allows me to control just the light and shadows in here. Okay. So I want to group them together. I hold down my shift key and I highlight both of them, and I'm just going to go down to this folder icon, which is create a group, create a new group. I can also press Alt G on my Chromebook to do that. I'm going to add a layer mask to this. So I'm going to go down to the old looking television set and add a layer mask by left clicking on that. When I do that, I get this little frame inside my layer, and it's highlighted with these white lines around the corners. That tells me that this is active, and that's what I want right now. I'm going to go over and grab that gradient tool, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the left side. The hotkey on your keyboard is the letter G if you want to just press the letter G. And I'm just going to drag from the top, not directly, just somewhere in the top part of my frame, And I'm going to come down to about right here on my building. And this allows me to separate my layers quite a bit, where I will be able later on, using the curves tool, to adjust this while leaving this less affected by it. You'll see what I'm saying. And that's that. Now I'm going to go add 2 more layers. I'm going to repeat what I did earlier. I'm just going to add 2 hue and saturation layers. So I'm going to go down to the bottom and left click, go up to where it says hue and saturation, and I'm going to add that one, and I'm going to add 1 more. Okay, on number 3, which it says hue saturation 3, I'm going to pull out the saturation again. So sliding that lever all the way to the left. On the top one, I'm going to repeat what I did earlier. I don't need to drag this one underneath like I did the first time, but I do want to change the blend mode from normal to luminosity. And there we have it. So we're almost home. I want to group these 2 together the same way I did. So I'm going to hold down my shift key, highlight that, and go down to the bottom to that folder and create a new group. So you'll see I have group 1 and I have group 2. While I still have group 2 open, before I close it up, I want to add a curves layer. I'm going to go down to the add fill or adjustment layer, and I'm going to left click on that, and this time instead of hue and saturation, I'm going to go up to curves, and this opens up my curves property on top of my layers. I want to go to these presets right below where it says preset, and I have these tools, and I want to grab this top one. And it allows me to modify the curve in my photo. Not here on the graph, but actually in my photo. It looks like a hand pointing a finger with a couple of arrows next to it. And I click on that and I go out, and it looks like an eyedropper on my screen. I'm just gonna go to these clouds, and I'm gonna left click, and you'll see if I drag down, it's changing the top. It's changing the bottom also, but it's affecting more of the top right now. And I'm kind of liking that. I'm going to go to the bottom, and I want to create more shadow on this wall and also on this tree, and this, I'm going to make my darkers darker to add more contrast. So I'm just going to click in there, drag down a little bit. See, if I dragged up I would be making it lighter, but I'm going to go down. I almost want to get it to the point where I can barely even make out what's on it. And you'll see when I did that, this tree also got darker, and this shadows on this side of that building did. I can see it in these windows too. I can go back and go over here to this cloud and kind of lighten that a little bit more by going up. And I can go to this cloud and do the same thing a little bit now. But that's enough. I don't want to over Photoshop this, as they say. I don't want it to appear completely Photoshopped. I want to edit my photo, but I don't want to manipulate it so much so that it becomes a Photoshop project instead of a photography project. It's a photo that's been edited in Photoshop, not a Photoshop project that has a photo in it. Okay, and that's it. I'm done. I'm gonna go up to my selection tool. I'm gonna say File, save as, and you know the drill, I'm going to save it as a Photoshop, and then after I do that, I'm going to come down and save it as a JPEG also, and put it in my Google Book. Alright, thank you very much.